Hello, everyone. It's Thursday, and excuse me. I'm here for our social studies lesson today, and we're going to continue to discuss the Black Lives Matter movement. We're going to talk about issues with racism today, inequity, inequality that we are seeing in schools, in jobs, and in all facets of life in the U.S. and around the world today. The reason that we're continuing to do this is, as teachers, we continue to talk about these issues in our meetings, and we talk about how we should be best presenting them to our students so that they understand that is what's going on in the world today, because it's important for you as students to be educated about the events that are happening today. And that doesn't just mean the happy events, it means the events that our country and the people of this country and the people of the world are struggling with as well. Because you are the community of citizens that will be the next generation to be voting and making laws and making the world a more equitable and peaceful and racially diverse place, because you make a difference and you are the voices of the future that can make change and can make sure that our world is a better place. So today, the book that I'm reading today, it's by an author named Kwame Alexander, and the book is called The Undefeated. And I really like this book a lot. It's not a traditional book in that it's not like a long story that has a beginning, middle, and end. It's actually a book of poetry. Or not a book of poetry, it's a book that is one long poem. So Kwame Alexander is an African American Black man who is an educator. He is a writer, and he is a speaker as well. And he has written, I think, over 15 books. Several of them are children's books. And the one that I'm reading today is kind of a poem about the struggles that Black people of color have experienced. And not only that, the successes and the victories that they have experienced as well. We didn't get to complete or really even do our complete poetry unit. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to share this book, because it's really fantastic introduction to poetry. It shows you that poetry can be very different and it can be in many different forms. I know that I've talked to you all about my love of poetry and how much I really value it. I did a lot of poetry reading and writing when I was in college, and this book is really exciting for me. All right, while I'm reading and discussing, I'm going to go ahead and shrink myself on the screen, and we're going to focus on the book. At the end of the lesson, I'll talk a little about your writing assignment, but I'm going to attach the Making Connections page, which we've been focusing on the last 2 weeks, so that you can write a Making Connections from this book. So it's going to be a text to self, a text to another text, another book, or a text to world writing today for Making Connections, okay? All right, so let's begin. All right, so this is Kwame Alexander. This is a picture of him. And there's a couple of books that he has written. The one that we're going to read today is this one right here where my mouse is, The Undefeated. And those are a couple other books that he wrote, booked, and crossover. But like I said, he's done about 15 books, and one of his major focuses is on poetry. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. I wanted to briefly, before we start reading the book, just talk a little bit about some of the ways that people are expressing themselves during this time. As you know, the Black Lives Matter movement is very strong and happening right now. We've talked about that. We talked about George Floyd and his death at the hands of police officers. This is a picture from his funeral that happened this week. You can see there's hundreds of supporters in this auditorium. So I wanted to give you a visual of how people are honoring and celebrating George Floyd's life. There's also writing is not the only way that you can express your voice and your opinion. A lot of people are doing beautiful art and murals, not only on walls, but I'll show you some others in this these couple pictures about some really cool art that is happening. So this is George Floyd, and it has in the background names of other people. You can see George Floyd's name there: Corey Jones, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Troy Robinson, Janet Wilson. There's many, many names there of people who have also been killed by police officers. So that's really, George Floyd is the one that really kind of highlighted this movement. There is a picture of him saying the words, "I can't breathe." This is in Washington, D.C., and this is the Black Lives Matter. They painted across 2 blocks. They painted Black Lives Matter on the streets, which I think is fantastic. It means that people see that all the time as they're driving and walking. This is Black Lives Matter in, I believe that this is in Albany, New York. So this is a peaceful protest march. Another city, I think this was Philadelphia, did End Racism Now on their streets. So that's a really powerful message as well. This is Los Angeles on Sunday. There were literally hundreds of thousands of people peacefully marching for the Black Lives Matter movement and to honor George Floyd in his life. This is another Black Lives Matter picture on the street. This is a young girl holding a Black Lives Matter sign. You can see she has her face mask. You can tell this is current art because we are still in a pandemic with the COVID-19 coronavirus. So people are still taking precautions for that as well. Another Black Lives Matter mural. And now we are on to our book. Kwame Alexander, The Undefeated. And you see pictures of powerful Black people of color on that cover. And this book will talk about not only, as I said, the struggles and trials that they went through, but also some of the successes and freedoms. All right, The Undefeated. I'll make this a little bigger. There we go. By Kwame Alexander, and the illustrator is Kadir Nelson. This is for the unforgettable, the swift and sweet ones who hurled history and opened a world of possible. The ones who survived America by any means necessary. And the ones who didn't. This is for the undeniable, the ones who scored with chains on one hand and faith in the other. This is for the unflappable, the sophisticated ones who box adversity and tackle vision, who shine their light for the world to see and don't stop till the break of dawn. This is for the unafraid, the audacious ones who carried the red, white, and weary blues on the battlefield to save an imperfect union. The righteous marching ones who sang, "We shall not be moved because Black lives matter." If you'll remember, this is a picture of a slave ship, and we studied this in our Black History Month in February. This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unlimited, unstoppable ones, the dreamers and doers who swim across the big sea of our imagination and show us the majestic shores of the promised land. The Wilma Rudolphs, the Muhammad Alis, the Althea Gibsons, the Jesse Owenses, the Jordans and the LeBrons, the Serenas and the Cheryls, the Reese Whitleys, and the undiscovered. This is for the unbelievable, the wee real cool ones. This is for the unbending, the black as the night is beautiful ones. This is for the underdogs and the uncertain, the unspoken, but no longer untitled. This is for the undefeated. This is for you and you and you. This is for us. And if you want, this can be zoomed, and you can read this after. You can pause your video and read that and zoom it if you'd like. There's some more information here, and that's the back cover of Kwame Alexander's book. Okay. I hope you liked that read aloud. As I said, that was poetry, book of poetry. So the way that kind of was read was as one long continuous poem over the pages of a book, which I think is a really fantastic way to read poetry. So I'm going to attach again the vocabulary worksheet. And something some of you mentioned was that the vocabulary was very adult and that it was kind of hard to understand. And you're right, it is hard to understand. And the reason I'm attaching it is because these are words that help us fight the inequities and the racism and the injustice that is happening in the world today. And it's important that you know these vocabulary words, even if they're a little bit big and you might not fully understand them. You can ask us questions about a word you don't understand. You can ask your family, maybe your parents. These are important discussions to have, and that's why I'm including them here as well. Remember, we are allies. We are all allies of the Black Lives Matter movement and allies for all people of color. Today, I'm attaching the Making Connections sheet. I'd like you to either write that in your journal, you can copy it on a piece of paper, or you can leave a Making Connections, write your sentences in a reply box below on the Teams page, okay? All right, I hope you enjoyed this book. We've only got 1 week left. I am excited for summer break, but I'm also very sad that we're not going to be seeing each other as much anymore, but I look forward to seeing you next year. But next week is our last week, and I look forward to reading your responses to today's video. All right, everybody. Adios. Goodbye.